She pointed her finger at me and said loudly for everyone to hear, "I'm the boss here." She was in the middle of the living room of my house, with her arms crossed, looking at me as if I were some intruder there. But I was not an intruder. I was her son's wife. I was the one who washed the dishes after dinner, the one who worked all day to pay half the bills, the one who tried to keep the peace in a place that had already been laden with war since the first day she saw me. All because I wasn't the woman she envisioned for her perfect son. I took a deep breath. I didn't answer anything. I stood there looking aether, trying to understand how someone can feel so much possession over something that no longer belongs to them. My house wasn't a mansion. It was just a simple little house in Baltimore, with furniture we bought used and some pictures of us on the wall. Marcus and I had fought to have that space, and she acted as if everything was hers, as if she had some right to rule our lives. My name is Alana. I'm 30 years old. I've been married to Marcus for 4 years. We met working in the same call center. He asked me out after a few weeks, and I realized quickly that he was different from the other guys. He was gentle, patient, and had the most sincere eyes I had ever seen. I fell in love with everything about him, including his fears. The only problem in our relationship was never between the two of us. It has always been her, his mother, Regina, the woman who never believed I was enough. She made a point of showing this with every visit, every call, every comment with ulterior motives. In the beginning, there were those worried phrases. "Are you sure you know how to cook properly? Wow, this curtain is so simple. How much did you earn this month?" It was always like this. I smiled so as not to lose my patience. I didn't want to put Marcus in an uncomfortable position. He loved his mother. I understood that. I also loved mine, which unfortunately was no longer here to support me. What hurt me was to see how Regina treated her son. He lowered his head every time she raised her voice. It was as if she had total control over him since she was little. And I saw that. She knew, and he did. Regina had a copy of the key to our house from the beginning, something that Marcus did thinking it was affection, family closeness. I was uncomfortable, but I let it go. But over time, this key became a weapon. She showed up unannounced, came and went as she pleased, criticized everything, messed with mythings. One day, she opened my wardrobe and complained about the amount of short dresses I had. Another time, she brought a set of pots and pans and said that mine didn't fit a decent house. Each visit was a new attempt to diminish me, to remind me that, in her mind, I was temporary. Marcus said that she was just like that eventually she would accept me. I tried to believe that. I really tried. Until that night, after work, I was tired and just wanted to rest a little on the couch. But Regina came slamming the door, complaining about the noise she made herself. He threw his bag on the floor and began to speak loudly. "If I don't come here to see this boy, he will disappear into the world. You lock him in this little house as if you owned everything." She walked through our little home as if it were her living room. Marcus left the room already tense. I saw his body freeze. He couldn't stand up to his mother. I didn't know. I felt alone in that war. Regina came to me with that look of someone who was already ready for the final attack. She repeated the phrase that marked the beginning of the end. "I'm the boss here." I felt as if my voice had been pushed into my chest. I didn't answer, because I knew that as long as I argued, she would have power. I just looked at Marcus. He was standing behind her, and for the first time, I saw shame in his eyes. It was not ashamed of me. It was ashamed of what she was doing, and who she has become. I didn't cry in front of her. I wouldn't give that pleasure. But inside, I was tired of being treated like I had no value. Tired of acting as if it were normal. Tired of trying to keep the peace when only one person was making war. I got up slowly, left the glass I was holding on the table, and walked to the bedroom. I closed the door calmly. I sat on the bed and felt everything falling apart. Not because I was missing something, but because I finally understood that she was never going to change, and that if someone needed to change that situation, it would have to be me. I sat there, staring at the closed door as if it were the only barrier between me and the chaos outside. I heard their voices in the room. Hers was always higher, always harder, always more certain that she was right. His lower, asking for calm, saying that it didn't have to be that way. I closed my eyes for a few seconds and thought about everything I'd already swallowed quietly in that place they called our home. Swallowing hadn't worked. Being kind hadn't worked. Waiting for time to solve it doesn't either. I couldn't go on like that. I could no longer accept that a person from the outside decided how I should live, much less inside my own home. When I left the room, Regina had her hand on her hip, standing in the middle of the room, as if commanding an invisible army. She looked at me as if I had appeared to serve another round of humiliation. I just took a deep breath and said to Marcus, "Can we talk alone?" He nodded. The mother made a scene, rolled her eyes, and asked, "What do you want to hide now?" I didn't give an answer. I just went to the balcony and waited for Marcus to follow me. And he followed. We closed the door. The street was silent. It was winter. I could see the smoke from our breath in the cold air. He seemed more concerned with what his mother was thinking inside than with what I was feeling outside. I said what I had been keeping for months. Either you talk to her, or this house will become a prison for both of us. Marcus ran his hand over his face, tired. He knew I was right, but he also knew the emotional weight it would be to face his mother. I continued, "I'm not telling you to choose between us. I'm telling you to choose what's right. You know she can't keep coming in here like she owns everything." He nodded again, but the words didn't come. He seemed to be bound by a chain that she had put on him since he was a child. The chain that says, "You owe me everything." The chain that is strengthened with guilt. I held his hand, squeezing firmly, not to press, but to remember that he was not alone. And for the first time, he looked at me with decisiveness in his eyes. We go back inside. Regina was sitting on the couch now, drumming her fingers on the arm of the armchair, as if she were assessing a troop that did not follow her orders. Marcus took a deep breath, and he said simply but clearly, "Mom, this house is ours. You can't come in here without warning." That took her by surprise. Her face transformed in seconds, from shocked to offended, from offended to furious. She stood up as if she had been pushed by an outburst of wounded pride. "I'm your mother. Do you think this woman here is worth more than me?" She pointed at me with disgust in her voice. He replied, "It's not about who's worth more. It's about respecting our choices." I felt my heart beat faster. It was the first time he had put himself between the two of us, and not behind her. Regina approached him, staring as if trying to bend his will with her gaze. She couldn't. He didn't dodge. And that made her even more angry. "If you think I'm going to keep asking permission to enter my son's house, you're very wrong." She said this in a voice trembling with anger. That's when Marcus did something I never imagined I'd see. He took the key out of her hand carefully, without fighting, without pushing, without raising the tone. She just took it and said, "Mom, it's better this way." He put the key in his pocket and was silent. I swear, time stopped there. She widened her eyes as if she had been stabbed. For her, that was the worst of attacks. It was like taking away from her the title of owner of the situation. She started screaming, saying that this was absurd, that I was poisoning her son's mind, that we were turning our backs on those who did the most for him. Marcus didn't raise his voice. He did not attack. I just said, "I love you, but I can't go on living like this." Regina was unresponsive for a few seconds, and that's when she realized that nothing she shouted would make the key return to her hand. She grabbed her bag, slammed the door, and walked away with quick, heavy steps, as if each one of them carried the weight of having lost something she believed was hers forever. I felt a relief that I hadn't felt in a long time, but along with the relief came fear. Would she really leave and accept it? Or was it just the beginning of an even bigger war? Marcus sat on the edge of the couch and put his hands on his face. He looked vulnerable, fragile, like a boy who had just fallen off his bike. I approached, sat next to him, and ran my hand over his shoulder. "You did what needed to be done." He shook his head, saying that he knew, but that it still hurt, because hurting someone you love, even when it's necessary, is still hurting. I get it. And I stayed there with him, in silence, until his breathing calmed down. And it was there, in that silence, that I decided one thing. I was never going to allow anyone to erase me from my own life again. In the following days, the house seemed to breathe relief. It was silent, not that heavy silence that suffocates, but a new light silence, as if we finally had space to be just the two of us. I would wake up and not be afraid to find someone stirring my pots or complaining about the smell of my coffee. I could leave my clothes on the chair without worrying about mean comments. I could exist without surveillance. Marcus also looked different. There was still guilt in his eyes, but there was also a timid pride, as if he had discovered a strength he never knew he had. I respected his process. She knew that facing her mother did not end years of emotional control. It was the first step. And steps like that hurt. I was in the kitchen preparing dinner when Marcus's cell phone rang. I heard her name. He answered. I only heard one side of the conversation, but it was enough. His voice was low, trying to explain that it wasn't a punishment. He said that she was welcome, but that he needed to let her know before. I heard when she returned everything as if it were an insult. She said I was putting him against the family. He said that I just wanted to get him away from the past, that I wanted to steal her son. I took a deep breath as I chopped the onion. I knew the battle wasn't won, not with someone who always needed to have control to feel that he had value. Marcus hung up the phone with a shaking hand. He spent a few minutes quietly staring at the ground. I stayed close, but I gave him space. When he finally looked up, he said, "She's going to try to get back her way." I just replied, "I know, and I will be by your side." Over the weekend, Regina decided to show up, but this time she rang the doorbell. When I heard the sound, my heart jumped. Marcus looked at me as if asking if he could open it. I nodded. He went to the door. Before opening, he took a deep breath, as if he were preparing for another round. Regina entered with a fake smile, that smile that does not reach the eyes. She brought a bag of food, trying to show that she was coming in peace. But his eyes scanned the house with that old custom of inspection. She was looking for something to criticize, something to use as ammunition. He didn't find it. She sat on the couch. Marcus and I stood for a few minutes. She began to speak as if nothing had happened. She commented on the cold, on a new neighbor on her street, on an apple pie recipe, all with a forced normality, as if what happened days earlier had not been an earthquake. Marcus tried to stay calm. Me too. Until she blurted out, "By the way, I thought it would be better to make new copies of the key, for when I need to come and take care of you." She said it laughing, as if it were a joke. But I knew it wasn't, and Marcus knew it too. He was rigid at the time. I looked at him and didn't have to say anything. He was already decided. He sat across from his mother and said, without raising his voice, "Mom, you can't do that. I took the key precisely because you don't respect our space." Regina tried to turn it into a joke. He made an expression of exaggerated surprise. "Wow, how dramatic. You take everything with fire and sword." But when she realized that she had no laughter, that no one was going to soften everything to protect her feelings, the mask fell off again. She started throwing everything in my direction. I know very well that it was this woman who filled his head. "Before her, you didn't treat me like that." It was always the same speech. Always. I was the obstacle. I was the problem. I was the enemy. I decided to speak this time, without shouting, without losing control. I sat next to Marcus and looked her straight in the eye. "I never asked you to like me. I just asked for respect." She was silent for a few seconds, as if the word respect had offended more than any name-calling. She took a deep breath, annoyed. "Respect? Who should be respected here is me. I am the mother. I built everything. I made him what he is." I replied, "And you should be proud of that. But what you do is destroy what he's trying to build now." Marcus put his hand on mine to show me that he was with me. Regina looked at the two of us and saw unity. He saw that the puppet had cut the wires, and this she could not bear. She stood up, grabbed her bag tightly, and said that we were ungrateful, that we were choosing the wrong path, that one day he would still regret it. Marcus tried to speak, but she wouldn't let him. He left, slamming the door again. When the silence returned, I felt my body soften, as if all the tensions had gone down my legs. Marcus breathed fast, full of mixed feelings. I walked over and hugged him. He said, almost as an outburst, "I don't want to lose my mother." I replied, "You won't. But she needs to learn that you've grown up, and that I'm here too." He hugged me tighter. We stayed like this for a while, in silence, but this time, a silence of someone who knows he is not alone. The days passed, and even without her here, her presence still occupied an invisible space inside the house. Marcus was quieter than usual. He continued to do everything he had always done, but with a weight behind his eyes, as if a part of him was all the time waiting for the phone to ring with some emotional tragedy coming from his mother. I tried to go on with life normally as well, but I knew the storm hadn't passed. It was just reorganizing. One Saturday morning, while I was changing the bed sheets, my thoughts went straight to that moment when Regina realized that she was no longer in charge there. Something inside her broke that day. I don't know if it was pride, control, or the certainty that Thesan had finally grown wings. Maybe it was all of these together. And when something like that breaks, the person doesn't try to glue it back gently. She tries to push with all the strength she has. Marcus came to me as I adjusted the pillows. He sat up on the bed, looking loaded with something that needed to come out. I stopped packing everything and sat next to him. He took a deep breath before speaking, because the sentence was loaded. "She asked me to go there for dinner tomorrow, alone." I didn't respond right away. Not because I didn't know what to think, but because it was exactly what I had predicted would happen. When someone loses control, they try to regain it by dividing, trying to create sides, forcing choices. He looked at me, afraid of what I would say. I held his hand and asked calmly, "What do you want to do?" Marcus was silent for a few seconds. "I want to go, just to talk, to try to make her understand." I knew that this was part of his process. You couldn't stop someone from trying to mend their relationship with their own mother. So I just agreed, "Then go, and say everything you need to say, but don't let her tell you who you should be." The next night I was waiting. He left at 7 and promised not to be long. I sat on the couch trying to watch television, but nothing held my attention. I looked at the clock every 5 minutes. After 2 hours, I finally heard the key turning in the lock. When Marcus entered, I could tell from his face that the conversation had not been calm. He sat down slowly, as if returning from the battlefield. I stood next to him and waited. He took a deep breath and said, "She spent the whole dinner saying that you ruined everything, that before you I was a good son, that this house has become a cold place, that I turned my back on those who raised me." I felt a tightness, but I stood firm. Then he continued in a firmer voice, "And I said it's not your fault, that you've always tried to make it work, that she didn't know how to respect the two of us." I felt his eyes water, not because I needed him to defend me, but because I had never heard him say it so clearly. He looked at me as if he was afraid that it would hurt more than it would help. Then he added, "She said that if that's the case, she doesn't want to show up while you're here." My heart leapt in my chest. I asked, "And what did you say?" He replied without hesitation, "Then maybe you'd better take a break." I didn't know whether to smile or cry. It was victory and pain at the same time, because he wasn't just facing his mother. He was breaking free from years of fear hidden in respect. I touched his face and told him the truth. "You did what was right." He lowered his head and said, "I know, but I never imagined that it would certainly hurt so much." After that conversation at his mother's house, Marcus seemed lighter. Not because everything was settled, but because he had finally stopped hiding inside himself. Life was getting on track little by little. We worked, cooked together, watched series on the couch without fear that that door would suddenly open for a new storm. But Regina was not the type of person who accepts loss of power in silence. She was silent. And this kind of silence usually announces only one thing: counterattack. A few days later, Marcus received a notification on his cell phone. It was from the bench. He was surprised, opened the message, and turned pale. He asked me to sit down. I sat and waited, my heart racing. He took a deep breath and said, "My mom canceled her car insurance, the insurance she had been paying since I was 20. He ran his hand over his face with a mixture of frustration and disappointment. She wants me to miss what she did for me." I couldn't help but think. She was trying to prove that without her we couldn't survive. Only this time Marcus took a deep breath and said, "Let's find a way. We pay." And at that moment I realized something important. Regina had not yet understood that that son already had a family, and that this family now had a firm pillar, the two of us together. On Friday, returning from work, we found Regina standing in front of our door. She had a suitcase next to her, as if announcing that she will enter and stay. Marcus held my hand before we got closer. Regina folded his arms and said, "Can I come in now, or do you want to leave me cold in the street?" I felt my body freeze. The manipulation was disguised as drama. Marcus didn't back down. He replied calmly, with a new firmness in his voice, "You can come in if you come with respect." She narrowed her eyes, trying to find a loophole to overturn the rule. He didn't find it. We entered. Everyone sat down, but no one was comfortable. Regina sighed loudly, looking at everything as if it were still hers. Then she began, "I raised you alone. I gave you food, housing, education, and that's how you repay me?" He replied, "With love. But love is not control, Mom." She shook her head, playing the victim. And then, with venom on his tongue, he blurted out, "I lost my son to this woman." I kept silent, because I didn't need to prove anything to her. Marcus took the floor again. "You haven't lost anything. I remain your son. But you have to accept that now I'm also a husband." He got up, went to the counter, and took something that I recognized at the time, the new keychain of the house. He went back to her and opened his hand. 2 keys, ours. Inside, the two of us are in charge. She said this with a tranquility that dismantled all her drama. She had no reaction. Her face changed. It was no longer anger. It was the pain of realizing that the domain was over, and she never imagined it would end like this. I got up, walked over to him, and stood by his side. It was a simple gesture, but it said it all. Unity. Regina looked at us as if she were facing a truth that she could not deny. She got up slowly, picked up her suitcase, and said only, I must go. There were no screams this time. There was no door slamming. Just a final silence. The silence of her defeat. And our victory. When we closed the door, Marcus leaned his head on my shoulder and breathed a sigh of relief, as if he could finally live his own life. I hugged him and replied softly, "Now, yes, this house has peace." And it was there, in that simple moment, that I understood something I should have understood much earlier. Family is not the one who rules. It is the one who respects, and who doesn't know how to respect, loses the right to enter.